Hey, listen, Bears lose again on a tight one. Caleb comes through. Our kicker gets his kick blocked again. What's going on? We still can't stop the run. All that coming up next on the Briggs and Brown After Show.
Welcome into the Briggs and Brown Postgame Show. The Bears have now lost 5 games in a row, 3 of which here.
Not surprising.
On the final play of the game. 3 of these 5 on the final play of the game.
You know what, Braggs?
Lance
you've been a Bears fan all your life, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you've been a Bears fan longer than I've been a Bears fan.
Correct.
I've been a Bears fan since the moment that I got drafted to the Bears. You know, so in the years that you've been a Bears fan, the outcome of this season up to this point, is it a surprise?
Yeah,
Does it surprise you?
Yeah, I hate saying it, but no, it does not surprise
It doesn't.
me. No.
And I know that you're emotionally in it because I watch you each week, and I know how you feel because I feel the same way. We all express it a little bit differently, you know. But these are trying times, and it seems like each year when we go through this, like this is the most excited I've seen Bears fans prior to the season actually starting.
Yes, sir.
You know, number one pick, we got all these weapons, we got all this and this, you know, and whoa, we're gonna do it this year, and we should be competing, you know, at least for a playoff spot. But the reality is that there's a whole lot of patience that has to come into these changes.
Yep.
And so with that being said, if there's a coaching change, if or when whatever there's coaching change, there's even more patience that has to be exhibited by us fans.
Yep.
In Chicago.
Yep. I mean, it always seems the timing never seems to line up.
It doesn't.
You know, for you guys, when you got to the Super Bowl, it's like, man, you know, Rex Grossman got you guys, you know, helped get you guys there as a quarterback. He had great moments in that season, but he was flawed. And that was part of the problem why the offense couldn't do everything that, you know, Super Bowl championship teams are capable of.
Yeah. And
you guys fought so hard to get to the top. Then you trade for Jay Cutler. And it's like that first year, you talk about years, you don't remember a year as exciting as this one. The first year Jay Cutler was traded here, that training camp, they had to build barricades at Bourbonnais because it was like it was like Elton John was walking through camp.
Do you remember? So it's funny because they were doing these parallels where it was like the Denver Broncos, when Peyton Manning gets there, they have, you know, 4,000 people show up. And I don't know, like we do 6,000 on a Tuesday.
Oh yeah,
you know, we do 6,000 in Chicago on a Tuesday.
It can't be like 14,000.
Yeah, right. It's bananas.
And so Jay shows up. He's the Messiah. Yeah. The day they traded for him was like the greatest day in Chicago sports history for fans. And then that season happens, and he throws 30 interceptions. He had 2 games where he threw 5 picks.
Yes, I think his first game against the Packers, I think he threw 5.
Right, and then the 49ers game, he threw another 5.
Right.
You want to talk about emotion? You should have seen a much younger, much drunker Braggs with his friends. We did not handle those games very well, and so that's like what we run into time and again is the hype before putting the cart before the horse.
Yep.
Yeah, every time. And so, but also it's just, it never lines up because when Jay got here, the defense that got us so close so many times in special teams, well, now you guys are starting to age and then Jay and the offense start to take off and it just never collided, right? And it's just like the timing issue. So now it's fast forward all the way to this. We don't have to go through each time, with every, different team. But now you get to this moment and things start to line up, but your quarterback's still a rookie and your head coach is on a extremely hot. His seat is cooked.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
So it's a hard time, and I agree with you. Patience is not something Bears fans want to hear because we've been sold that for so long. But let's just start with it then, because I certainly want to talk about the defense. They gave up 450 yards of offense.
Yeah.
But to me, the story of today was Caleb Williams, because this game felt over, and then all of a sudden Caleb Williams brings this team back from the dead.
Yeah.
On the shoulders of a onside kick that certainly helped make the moment, and then Caleb throws this amazing strike to get you back into field goal range.
Yeah.
And hey, the Bears are able to make a field goal to tie the game. So you have certainly, Lance, kept a critical eye to Caleb Williams.
Absolutely.
To start his career here
Somebody
in Chicago.
needs to.
And everybody else is kind of, playing with kid gloves.
Don't be so easy. Don't be so hard on him. Don't be so hard on him.
Your assessment from today's game. He was dynamic. He's making plays. He has 2 touchdowns, like 350 yards passing, brings you back in the moment, but certainly some mistakes go over. So I'm curious your overall perception of what Caleb did today.
Listen, if we're gonna start with the mistakes, let's start with the bad first, okay, and then we'll move on to the good. There were still moments early on in the game where I thought he held the ball too long. He held the ball too long when they were in the end zone, and that's something that we've seen. There were still some throws that I thought he could have given his receivers a better opportunity. Yeah, that's that too. But when we talk about the bad, that's kind of where it ends for me in his criticism today.
Yep.
Because what I really loved today is he gave his playmakers an opportunity to make a play on the football.
Yes.
And because he did that, they didn't let him down most of the time. Right. They didn't let him down, honestly. He threw the ball to Odunze, and when he was covered again, and you saw shades of it a week ago, but he did it again, and those 50-50 balls, I think we completed, I'd say, at least on the 80 percentile when he threw it, and so improvising, throwing, and extending that drive, I really like that. I really like that he looked like there wasn't a minute of the game that he wasn't tuned in and wanting to win. Wanted to win every minute, and I love that.
Well, and the thing that you've brought up time and again is his fight. You said last week the thing that encourages you most about him is his fight. And I think the one common denominator, because we can certainly talk about Thomas Brown bringing something out of him here these last couple of weeks that maybe we haven't seen this season. But I think the common denominator throughout the season for Caleb is his fourth quarters. I think Adam called him fourth quarter Caleb. And so that has to be encouraging, because when you talk about all the years of me being a Bears fan, we've had flawed quarterbacks, guys that almost reach their potential, but man, did they melt down in the fourth quarters. And it's not always the quarterback's fault, but at the end of the day, you got to make plays when it's money on the table time. You're the quarterback of this team, and this guy seems to be that.
Yeah, I agree, and I think sometimes my harsh criticism comes off as I don't like him. And that's not true. It's not that I dislike him. I'm a Bear fan. And I want whoever is in charge to succeed. But that doesn't stop me from giving my honest opinion of what I'm seeing on the field, and what I've seen. What I've seen in the past hasn't matched up with what I expect out of a number 1 pick consistently. Now, what I've started to see over the last couple of weeks is some flashes of what I expect out of a number 1 pick.
Sure.
Okay. And I'm seeing that more and more, and that's good. It's good to trend that way, and it gives a lot of the us Bear fans, especially ones that have been Bear fans all of our lives.
Yes, sir.
Some hope.
Adam Hogue joins the show here.
Oh, yeah.
Coming in here hot, and we appreciate you joining. You dubbed it fourth quarter Caleb, right?
Yeah, just, unfortunately, overtime Caleb needs to be worked out a little bit, apparently.
One quarter at a time.
This was the trial run for
but he's done this enough this season. I mean, obviously the last 2 weeks. What was the other game where he came up big in the fourth quarter and I don't know. These losses are all starting to run together. But there was another game. Wasn't there another game earlier where he still made the plays in the fourth quarter and they didn't win?
Washington?
Yeah, Washington.
That's what it had to be Washington.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of Washington, where he did play poorly the first, really 3 quarters of that game. But when it mattered, they took the lead. Yeah. And then Flu said 13 yards didn't matter. And then they did. And then, one of his players wasn't ready, and then they lost. Look, you know what I want to ask you this, Lance, because it sounds like to me, because we haven't really totally seen eye to eye on Caleb so far. Right. But the one part I don't blame you for is being skeptical about a Bears quarterback. Is there any of that, or are you strictly based off of like what you saw from him in college or whatever? Or is there some of it too? Because I am too. I'm like, it's the Bears.
No, for me, there. I just know that there has to be a certain amount of patience here. Now, I think he could always surprise me and speed up. What I think the patience should be for a quarterback coming into the league, especially for the Chicago Bears. But when you get drafted number 1 pick and there's so much noise about how excited everybody is about coming into the year and what we think our Bears are going to be, and I'm patient and I'm quiet and I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. But the reality is, you throw a quarterback in that this early, you throw him to the fire and you have him throwing the ball left and right. You're bound to have setbacks. You're bound to have setbacks. What they're asking from Caleb, what they were asking from Justin, what they were asking from Mitch Trubisky, it's tough. It's tough to, and I don't know, Mitch wasn't thrown in right away, but a couple games in, he got thrown in. I know Justin got thrown in before he probably should have, and Caleb got thrown in from the very beginning. So there's going to take time. You can come out, you can win a game. You can come out and look great against a team in week 1 and have that flash and everybody say, okay, man, this is going to be our guy. But it is a 17-week season. It's a 17-week season, and these guys that you play against are professionals, and they're extremely good. It's going to take time to figure this whole thing out.
Let me ask you guys this. I'll start with you, Hogue, but it's this obscure stat that is it's blowing my mind right now. Kevin Fishbane tweeted it out earlier. You know him with his fun facts. Adam.
They're never fun.
They're never fun. But this one is like, I don't know what to make of it. The Bears haven't thrown an interception in 5 games. Yeah. And it's the longest stretch of games without throwing an interception in Chicago Bears history since 1932.
They were keeping stats in 32?
But the
they
Bears
didn't even throw the ball in 32.
Right? And the Bears are 0-5 in those games.
That's mind-boggling. You shouldn't. If you go 5 games without throwing an interception, you should win at least one of them. That doesn't make any sense.
It's the opposite of the Jared Goff stat about him throwing a bunch of picks and then still winning.
Yeah.
There's always the anomaly. So when we look at stats, we say,
why are the Bears always the anomaly?
Right. They're the anomaly. So you look at these stats and we say, okay, listen, if you get, over this past weekend, if you get 4 takeaways or more, you win the game. All right. If you get 3, you win the game. 2, whatever, the percentage comes down. But there's always this skewed percentage where it's not 100%. It's like, okay, this team had 4 takeaways and still lost. So you're talking about like a New York Jets defense that took the ball away 5 times, but they couldn't do anything with it when they got the ball.
Right.
And it was just this weird anomaly of they lost the game, but it screws up that stat. But the stat is typically true. It's typically true. It just one of those type of deals.
Well, and it also does feel like it's obscure because the first 3 losses of these 5 games, they were playing not to lose or calling plays not to lose, right? Correct. It wasn't as aggressive, and the game plan certainly didn't make a lot of sense, and that's why Shane Waldron's no longer here. Now, these last 2 games, it's no interceptions, but they're moving the ball, right? They had 400 yards of total offense last week against Green Bay.
Yeah.
And now this week, I don't know what they ended with, but, it certainly had to be over 400 yards of total offense again. So, no interceptions in those types of games, is what you're looking for,
right.
Not so much in the too conservative way.
One of the questions that I kind of have for a lot of the coaches, these coaches they ascend so fast. They ascend extremely fast, and they go from this 6-figure to 7 figures really fast. And my question is, what's missing along that line? We've seen a lot of coaches that have come in here and feel like they were in over their heads. So if you're in over your heads and you're ascending extremely fast, what's missing along the way?
Right. And I want to get into the coaching because I think there's a lot to talk about with what Thomas Brown is doing to help not just Caleb but the entire offense, and we're certainly going to get to that. But want to take a quick time out here. So when we come back, we'll talk about some of that coaching staff. But first, want to give a quick shout out to our guys over at Miller Lite. Oh, you better nail this by the end of it. But
that was my first experience.
A lot's changed over the years, Adam Hogue, but one thing that hasn't is the great taste of Miller Lite. Another thing that hasn't changed is that it's less filling. So what is the best thing about original light beer? Well, Miller Lite sparked this debate in 1975, and we still haven't settled it. Great taste or less filling? Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. Miller Lite is the official beer of the Chicago Bears. You don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/CHGO football, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than the premium regular beer. Make sure you get yourself some Miller Lite. I love it. And shout out to Miller Lite. They're always supplying us at our tailgates. Another proud sponsor of our CHGO tailgates is Sunnyside. Sunnyside.
I got you on this if you want.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Our friends at Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, you know this. They are always here to elevate whatever season you are in. Sunnyside is your home for judgment-free cannabis shopping. They have a crazy selection, over 100 different strains to choose from with easy online ordering and in-store pickup. Wherever you are in Illinois, Sunnyside has a location for you. They will take you as far south as Champaign and as far north as South Beloit. You can stop in the store nearest you for expert guidance from their staff or select from quality lines like Cresco or Floracal. How about Good News Island Vibes for that next level staycation you might be taking? And where you always want to go is Sunnyside. Visit sunnyside.shop. You could do that as well for Bright Buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, Bright Buys every day, only for 21 plus or Illinois medical card holders.
That's right, and we appreciate everybody tuned in. Make sure you hit the like button for Lance Briggs and Adam Hogue. Alex Brown will return here coming up this week, so don't you worry, but Hogue's sitting in for our guy, number 96, and so once again, like I said, hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe. But we certainly need to get to this super chat from Giuseppe Mandel, $49.99 super chat. The head coach continues to make terrible decisions in crucial moments. 3rd and 13 with a backup quarterback, and you don't bring pressure. Bad conservative scheme in the end again. Thursday, Montgomery equals beast mode. Primal Steakhouse. Las Vegas, I think is what he's saying there. I certainly want to talk about Thomas Brown. We can shelf that for later because Giuseppe kind of teased it up there. Briggs, I'm certainly interested to hear your thoughts on the defensive philosophy here at the end of the game for Matt Eberflus. You've played in this cover 2 foundational system, in your days here in Chicago. Everyone knows that. Yeah. So, there was multiple opportunities where Matt Eberflus could have dialed it up, but they're backing up and letting the offense stay in front of them. What was your thoughts as those plays were unfolding, specifically when it was 1st and 20 in overtime and Minnesota gets 2 easy 10-yard throws to get a first down, no pressures dialed up, and the corners are backing off?
It's a tough position to be in as a signal caller. Well, I guess it's it can be viewed as tough. I don't want to necessarily say it's tough because if you can't dial up pressure with your 4, you can't get win the one-on-ones, and you've got to bring somebody. You have to. You got to bring somebody to try to get that ball out on time, because what you're doing is you're not allowing your defensive backs to be opportunistic. They can't make that break at the top of 3 seconds or at the top of 4 seconds, because they have to worry about a double move and the quarterback that's patting the ball. So if the quarterback's patting the ball, there's a danger that he can come back to your area. There we go.
You just pulled a card.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You just went full card.
That was Emma's phone.
Oh, don't throw her under the bus.
Emma, how dare you?
Right in the middle of
this. Look at Emma. That was Emma. I just threw her under the bus. See how that works?
My statement too.
Wow. Would you have ever done that?
She just ran away.
Right,
she just ran away crying.
Oh, that was Urlacher's fault.
Oh, I would have been fined the maximum of whatever is finable for that offense.
I mean, I would have just blamed Carm. Isn't that like the easy?
Oh, my bad. I should have blamed Carm. But he did the Carm thing with me.
Yeah.
Okay,
there was a lot there. Respect the one shot.
Thank you. Come on, guys.
Damn it, Emma.
But like I was saying, you should have the ability to when those, especially on those check down routes, the backside linebacker or safety should be breaking. So as soon as they catch the ball, you should have a defender on them. It's tough to do when you aren't able to get pressure with 4 and the quarterback's able to pat and look this way, that way, and come back this way.
I want to back up a little bit and ask you something you said right before the break about questioning or wondering about coaches that, they become a head coach for the first time, and all of a sudden their salaries are going up. I'm curious. It's one of the reasons why I am always open to the idea of a coach getting a second opportunity.
Right.
So when it came down to Flus versus Dan Quinn, I was team Dan Quinn. And one of the reasons was, okay, this guy made it to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, he must know what he's doing. And whatever went wrong after he lost Kyle Shanahan, he couldn't find that second offensive coordinator. That seemed to be the problem. Well, he's going to learn his lesson this time.
Right.
Okay?
Correct.
Well, and now he's got Cliff Kingsbury. So Now, but my question to you is, from your experience, like when Lovey came on, because Lovey was the exception to this. Like Lovey had success as a first-time coach, although similar to Dan Quinn, he made it to the Super Bowl. But ended up being there, I think, longer than Dan Quinn was in Atlanta, right? Yeah, I mean, it was 9 years. But what when Lovey came on, what was it that told you guys as players, like, okay, he's got it. Like he's definitely a head coach in this league. He's earned our respect.
Did
it take time?
Well, it always takes time. It always takes time because one thing you have to do, you have to weed out the players that you need to weed out and realize, okay, we want to keep – these are players we want to keep. So typically you want to keep the younger guys that are going to buy in, because you have to get everybody to buy into what your system and the Lovey way. So some of the older players can be a resistance to that, So it was quick. If you realize in that first year that he was here, there were a lot of guys that were traded away in training camp. All right, we got to get rid of this guy, get rid of that guy, rid of this guy. And I'm pretty sure almost 100% of them were older guys. The Ted Washingtons, and there's I'm trying to remember who it was, but there was a lot of older guys that were sent away. And so when the guys that stayed, as we're building the Lovey way, we start with beating Green Bay, but it starts with consistency. And through the consistency, you could see something, even though that in 2004 we didn't win a lot of games, defensively we felt different. There were games where we're like, whoa, like this is a different feel. The guys that are to my right and to my left, we can all really play this game. So we just get a few things fixed on offense, I think we can really be a special team. So that team went from 2004 to the phrases that Lovey wanted us to instill every time we broke the huddle, which was, world champs, and it went from a whisper to a loud echo, to guys that really believed in it. So that took about a year or so.
Well, let me ask you this, because it felt like, this team hasn't been perfect the last few years, but it felt like Matt Eberflus was starting to get a handle on the defensive side.
That's what
at the
I'm
very
frustrated
least.
with, because it seemed like they were starting.
Right.
Those
you
things
bring
were
in
starting
Montez
to happen.
Sweat halfway through last year. You get yourself a pass rush, and everything starts to come together.
It can't just be defense, though.
Right.
Like he can't. He's a head coach. He can't just be defense. He has to be ready for every situation. You got to know when to throw the red flag, the challenge flag, when not to throw the challenge flag.
He hasn't won a challenge in over a year.
Yeah. I mean,
over a year.
Levy wasn't very good at the challenge flag either. He was pretty doggone bad at it, but at least there were times where he threw it and I understood why.
Yeah.
We're like, well, shoot, it looked close. It was super.
And to be fair, back in Lovey's day, they didn't have the HD cameras like they do nowadays.
Get caught in 4K.
You know what? But that's a real thing. Not only that, they also have way more plays that get automatically reviewed now.
Yeah.
It was way harder back then, the challenge plays, than it is now, because there's actually very few times where something's not automatically getting reviewed. Takeaways automatically get reviewed now. Touchdowns automatically get reviewed now. And so I would say, because you're right. I mean, that was definitely one of my criticisms late in his time, was like, man, they can't get these challenges right. But now it's like, to me, it's even worse now when you can't get them right.
Yeah. So, I mean, 452 yards of total offense given up by the Bears defense. The Vikings had 328 passing yards, 124 rushing yards, 22 first downs, 6 of 13 on third down efficiency. So my question to you, Lance, is, I mean, I know this defense is talented. They're certainly missing a guy like Andrew Billings right now. Montez Sweat, not going to make excuses for him, but I also think the reality is he's been playing injured all season long.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you is, how hard is it going to be for this defense to not let go of the rope here as this season progresses? You've got a Detroit Lions team that's a well-oiled machine in 4 days. And everybody's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter because all that matters is Caleb's development. And I'm like trying to look at the veterans on that in that locker room, specifically on that defensive side. And like, I don't think that's all they care about in life.
Well, you never want to let go of the rope. If legacy means anything to you in longevity and you want to be here, because you start letting go of the rope, then we're going to have to start trimming the fat. And so you want to be as dominant defensively as you possibly can be. There was a play, I made a few notes, on this game, but there was a play where it was a doubles wide receiver out. They were kind of in a bunch set without trips. It was a spread bunch, and it was a pick route that became a wheel. And Sam Darnold saw it early and threw it. That pick route and we were in man coverage, so they recognized man coverage.
That wasn't the one that got called back?
It wasn't the one that got called back. No, this one, I mean, Sam saw it early. He knew it. He knew the alignment. You have to recognize that defensively, that they're in a pick formation, that it's going to be a wheel route. Hey, are we going to switch this right now? Because they're close enough that we can switch, and I'll take the guy that's on the line of scrimmage, and we can switch so you can play over the top.
Yep.
That one was one of the plays where big-time combination of coaching and players, because I don't know if the coaches are saying in practice, hey, listen, when they get in this formation, let's have an alert for this, or is it being taught and the players aren't executing? Jalen Johnson was standing high on a third down that was converted, and so what I'm starting to see is there's stuff that's creeping in.
Yeah.
There's stuff that's creeping in, which means that things are getting let go in practice. We're not keeping our thumb on certain things, and the fundamentals. You have to keep your thumb on fundamentals defensively. You have to keep your thumb on communication defensively, or these things start to happen and they start to multiply.
It sounds like what was happening on offense a few weeks ago. It's like they've switched.
Mm-hmm.
Like all these things that we heard from the players, like all the details, things are slipping by. We hear, Cole talking about on his show about how, hey, you got to lock in, and do your things inside and outside the building. Yep. And then it seemed like Thomas Brown took over, and all of a sudden that stuff seemed to get a lot better. Now we're still seeing some false starts here and there, whatever, but at least it's at a level now that is a little bit more understandable. And now all of a sudden it seems like, to your point, that I don't know if the defense is just getting frustrated or fed up, but losing streak is wearing on him. But you're right. It seems like some of these details are slipping a little bit on that side of the ball.
And I don't like it for teams to be able to run to the outside of the tackles. That means that our inability to set edges. And they got into two tight end sets, and they were running the ball outside of the box. That just means, guys, we got to fly down right now. Once we read run, and we've got to set edges. Somebody's got to get into these gaps. That was one of the things that was most disappointing to me from the linebacker standpoint, because from a linebacker standpoint, you're sitting at the second level. So with one back, two tight ends, you get action one way. It is clear as day, and going into that week, do they have pullers? Do they pull in this formation, or they don't? If they don't, we can attack those gaps as hard as we possibly can. As we want.
Well, and let me ask you this, Lance, because I think another thing, too, where they were getting out on the edge, you saw early in the game Austin Booker get washed out by a tight end.
Yeah.
And so explain to me what he can do better, because it was a tight end that crashed down on him.
Yeah.
And he gets completely pushed out of the play, wide open lane for the running back. Austin Booker's a rookie. What are you telling him in the film room here this week when you're looking at a play like that?
What's your gap? Whatever your gap is, secure that. Secure that gap so that our linebackers that are coming down, it's a clear run for them. Now, Austin Booker, I don't look at him as a Tommy Harris caliber or a Julius Peppers. When you have guys at that caliber, then there's more leeway. We'll say, hey, do you want to take the D gap or do you want to take the C gap? And it's like, okay, well, whatever one you want, just go and stay there. Austin Booker, your gap is the C gap. Secure that doggone gap so that we can play fast.
Yeah.
Wood and I were talking about that multiple times during the game, where it just seemed like both the tackle and the end were slanting inside, and there's got to be a linebacker scraping over the top then, and they just weren't there.
Correct. That looks like we would call that a pirate stunt. And then if they do that, if your linebacker scrapes down tight and spills to the next linebacker that's running, you could actually take out two of their players to our one when you're outnumbered.
Yeah. So one of my, am I having flashbacks right now? Me being the football expert that I am, watching you guys back in the day, there would be some pivotal moments where the corners would play back or start, and it looks like they're going to jam, and then they'd fall back.
Yeah.
Or they'd play 10 yards off. And I would be screaming, jam the receivers. That's the most simplistic thing I think a fan is going to say. We don't understand your scheme. So explain to me why we see that at times. Why at the end of the game, Matt Eberflus is not having his DBs up on those receivers, because they're just, to me, it gives them so much room. So I just need somebody to explain to me why that happens in this defense.
I'll give you a good example. Playing against the Packers and playing against Aaron Rodgers. Okay, so if our corners would come up and press, then he'd run the back shoulder fade. Okay, if our corners were off, let's say 10 yards, then they're going to run the hitch or they'll run the slant or the quick out. All right. If we played somewhere in between, or if we played back and then run up, it put him in a position where he had to guess. And that's what we wanted him to do. We don't want him to know pre-snap, I know exactly where I'm going to go with the ball. He's too good of a quarterback. All right. We want him to be able to guess. And so the other thing you want to do is, for us linebackers, even when we're in the blitz scheme, you have to be accounted for in the blitz once you're 3.5 yards away from the line of scrimmage. So if you teeter right around the 3 yard, 3.5, kind of go back and forth, the center has to guess. The center and the quarterback have to guess. He's coming. A lot of times they'll be like, yeah, we're going to pick him. Now, if they pick me going to I'm on their right side, and we got some one-on-ones over here, that's going to help that pass rush. So there's ways to manipulate the offense by position defensively.
Interesting. I mean, Hogue, when you look at this, we're talking so much about, the defense falling off here these last couple of weeks. But again, just trying to find some semblance of hope. This offense, all of a sudden, role reversal all of a sudden. But Thomas Brown comes in 2 games into this, and he seems to have Caleb Williams under control, playing patient, playing at a level that we didn't see, through the first 3 losses before Shane Waldron was finally let go. Going into this game, I think everybody was terrified. How would they handle the blitz with Brian Flores showing so many disguised looks? To my untrained eye, it seems like they were ready for it today. And so, like, for you, what are you seeing with Thomas Brown that they're able to have this under control, where the offensive line's all of a sudden playing well against the blitz and Caleb Williams is all of a sudden playing well against the blitz?
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of things to look at when it comes to that topic. I mean, one is we got to give Caleb Williams credit for mostly passing that test today, because it isn't an easy test, especially for a rookie quarterback. And I thought for the most part, because there were a few times where the Vikings got me watching on the couch over here, because I'm like, oh, they're coming. And then both linebackers, after initially rushing, drop back after that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, so that's not just pre-snap confusion. It's actually even post-snap confusion, where they're still screwing with you a little bit. And I thought almost every time that happened, Caleb actually recognized it. So whatever it was, whatever keys that Thomas Brown gave Caleb this week to look at, I thought he, for the most part, handled that really, really well. And then also, guess what? His talent wins out too, because this was the exact matchup last year that Justin Fields lost me on, because it was the first play of that game at Soldier Field against the Vikings, when it was like, here's the play you repped all season, or all week, I mean, to get the ball out to, actually, which was driving me crazy under Luke Getsy, they would screen for Cole Kmet with the tiny wide receiver blocking instead of the opposite way.
Oh,
yeah, why not get it to the fast wide receiver Cole Kmet blocking? Regardless, Justin was late. He was too methodical. He couldn't get the ball out there. And you saw early on in this game, I thought Thomas Brown did a great job calling it, and Caleb did a great job throwing it, those outside throws, because that's one of the best ways to defeat this type of defense. So I give Thomas Brown a lot of credit, and I give Caleb a lot of credit. And it's just, I think that's why we've been talking about the defense so much, because it's frustrating they couldn't do their job today.
You're right. The talent wins out, because last year, the play you're referring to on that first play, he knows a free blitzer's coming off the edge, and he has to get it out of his hands.
And he did.
He hitched, and then he gets sacked. Yeah. Well, in today's game, Caleb revealed in the postgame press conference that he misread how many people were on the line of scrimmage and didn't realize there was a free blitzer coming. But then when he did, he got out of the pocket, and that was the play where he threw it to DeAndre Swift over the top. So he read it wrong, but he improvised, and he has the talent. Even as a rookie, it was a mistaken identification of what's going on at the line of scrimmage, but still was able to make a play, an unbelievable throw to DeAndre Swift over the top.
How long has Thomas Brown been here?
All year.
No, I mean, was he here last year?
No,
sir.
So
he was
hire.
the Panthers OC last year. Yeah.
Okay, so he was a new hire. I know that Shane Waldron didn't work out, and who knows what's going to happen with Thomas Brown. We hope what we're seeing continues the rest of the year, and at least it gives him a hell of an argument for the future, and continuing the future and being a part of this offensive production. But was he always in the plans for Shane Waldron? If Shane Waldron fell through, or it's to me, if Thomas Brown was available and we got Shane Waldron, and Shane Waldron didn't work out, and we're keeping Thomas Brown. Let's say he works out. I don't know. It's been 2 weeks he's been in charge, and we've seen improvement in both of those weeks. Thomas Brown works out, then where do we miss there?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, where do we miss
I've
there?
been asking that question to myself so many times over the last 2 weeks, because I know we can't base everything off of press conferences. It's not the same as being in front of a team, but there are some similarities there. Like, if you can stand in front of the Chicago media every week and be confident in what you're saying and get off I'm sure you're doing that with your players too.
Correct.
And if you're failing to do it, which Shane Waldron failed to do from the very first press conference back in January, I'm just struggling to see how both of these guys could have sat in the interviews with Matt Eberflus, with Ryan Poles, whoever else was in those interviews, and they come out of those interviews going, no, Shane Waldron's the guy, not Thomas Brown. It makes no sense to me.
Zero.
And all I can do is hypothesize and try to come up with the answer. And the only thing I can come up with is Thomas Brown was the OC in Carolina last year, which had the number 1 pick in Bryce Young, and it was a disaster.
It was a disaster.
And it doesn't matter that it was not really Thomas Brown's fault, and it was way more Frank Reich, who was the one calling the plays for most of the season.
Right.
What matters are the optics, because we're the Bears, and we worry about the optics. And we worry about, if we hire the guy that was just the OC for Bryce Young and it didn't work, well, how are we supposed to sell that to the fan base? Instead of just believing in these guys.
Right. This is the right choice for us.
Yep.
This is it for us. This is not, let's stop tracing who the trendy name is that's out there. Oh man, this is the hot name. The hot name does not always equate to success. The Bears, this organization needs coaches that are specific to Chicago. You cannot just go out and get a name. You know what I mean? Because this guy is a hot OC or this guy's a hot DC. They have to fit this city. It is very important. We've had too many coaches that have come here that don't fit this city. Guys, people that can't stand up, just like you said, Hope, in front of the Chicago media and handle it. They don't handle it very well. Matt Nagy didn't handle it very well. Trestman didn't handle it very well. And Eberflus doesn't handle it well.
Preach. Honestly, preach. I mean, because you heard it on the 85. You guys, talked about it with Cole, where he said he's just so direct. And he gave a specific example where he's like, when I'm running a hitch, if it's 4 steps and I turn. And when they discussed it, he's looking at it, he's like, it's 4 steps and then you turn.
And then you turn.
Period.
Yeah. Period.
There's
that's
no
it.
gray area.
Yeah.
And so that's the mark of a coach, like you said, because I've been running through this. Now we're all trying to replace Matt Eberflus and trying to figure out who's best. And we're all fawning over Ben Johnson because of what he's doing in Detroit, and rightfully so. He's certainly an intriguing target. But then as the wheels have come off, it became abundantly clear to me that they needed somebody that commands the locker room and is a leader of men and demands the respect of those guys across from him. And so you've got to be able to check both boxes.
Yeah.
Right?
But I care more about the leader of the men part than anything else. I got to be honest with you. Like this is the NFL. First of all, at any level of football,
at any level,
you if you don't respect what your coaches are saying to you, if you don't have respect for that person, you're not going to listen. You're not going to pay attention to those details.
Correct.
We were just talking about that we're slipping, and that might even be the case here. Flus may have. In fact, I would argue he did have the respect of the defensive players, or they wouldn't have been playing as well as they had been at the end of last season and the beginning of this season. But something has changed here recently. And so I care about that number one. That can't be the only thing, but to me, that's number one on the list because this franchise, since they fired Lovie Smith, has struck out in that regard. They have struck out in the respect of the coach aspect, and it's, what is it, 0 for 4 now?
Yeah.
Or 5? I'm losing track.
Right.
One of the things that one of the characteristics that I always want to look for when I see a coach that's interviewing with Chicago media, with any media, is how can you be so detailed in the plays that happened during a win, but you be so fuzzy when you lose? Oh, I'm going to have to go back. I'm going to have to look at the tape. No, you can't be clear about the details of the game when you win. But when we lose, it's like, we're going to have to look that one over a little bit. No, you know what happened.
Right.
Let's address it. Address it. You know what I mean? Address the issues just as much as you address the wins. Right.
Well, because to your point, Sean McVay is taking on Vic Fangio tonight.
Yeah,
and I don't know if you saw the clip from Mina Kimes and Brett Colesman. Brett Coleman.
Are we talking about the 2018 matchup?
Right. So this is the first time that Vic Fangio and Sean McVay are going to face each other since the 2018 matchup where the Rams came to town and the Bears and Akeem Hicks completely shut them down. And then they go on to the Super Bowl, and that defense, the Patriots, used Vic Fangio's defense. It was really interesting to hear how they broke it down and the way they lined up at the line of scrimmage to throw off what Sean McVay was trying to do. Mm-hmm. And to your point about coaches that are fuzzy when they lose and know everything when they win, Sean McVay can literally call back plays. Like, he's got this crazy mind where he can call back any play from the last 8 years. And so the whole thing is like, this game's been eating at him. Like, he's been literally dialed up trying to prove that he can outthink what Vic Fangio did against him, and tonight's like going to be the big showdown. And so that's a big one to me. And so going back to Thomas Brown and some of the things that he's doing here for Caleb Williams in 2 games, this is from Courtney Cronin. Shout out to Courtney, doing a great job. In 2 games, since switching offensive coordinators, Caleb Williams has posted his 2 lowest pressure percentages of the season and his lowest average pass times of the season. As a result, his efficiency has gone up from weeks 1 through 9 to weeks 11 to 12. Williams' completion percentage jumped from 61% to 71%, and his yards per average has gone from 6.3 to 7.1, and his average pass time going from 2.90 down to 2.42 seconds. So, like, there's the proof within the stats. I'm not much of a stats guy, but this is telling the story of what you're seeing visually on the field.
Yeah, right. And I'm sorry, did they trade for a new offensive line between coordinators, or are these the same guys that are out there? You know what I mean? Like, and so it's like you can have not the best personnel, but it's still your job. I loved what Thomas Brown, my favorite quote that he has said so far, and it is so simple, but sometimes football is simple. And he just goes this week, and especially at the matchup against Brian Flores, and he just goes, well, how many unsackable plays can we design?
Yeah.
Because that's my job. My job is just, I have to design as many unsackable plays as I can. And that's my job. That's all I can do. All I can do is create these plays that I'm going to give to my team and give to my rookie quarterback. And then from there, okay, these are the unsackable plays that I've designed. What can you do with them? That's all you can do as a coach. You don't have to overthink it.
L Boogie, I know tomorrow the grades are coming down strong.
Yes, they are.
And so you're going to be going through the offense, defense, special teams, and coaching. We got some super chats we want to get to, but when you talk about what lost this game, certainly the defense holds their own right, giving up 450 yards of offense, but special teams here today, again.
Over and under on the F.
What did you give special teams last week? It was bad, right?
I think it was an F.
F, right?
It was definitely an F.
Now they had another block field goal today.
Yep.
And a muffed punt.
Yep.
So I'd love to hear your thoughts on special teams.
How about that amazing onside kick?
And the kick return.
Yeah. So where do we stand? You don't have to give it. Don't spoil your grade. Yeah. But I'm certainly interested to hear your thoughts on special teams 2 weeks in a row having some bad moments.
So what one of the comments that I made last week is that our opponents seem to do more scout on our kicking or our kicking team than we do. And here's another week where you see the Minnesota Vikings loading that guard area and getting the hands up and kicking it. It's on tape. So coaches are saying, like, before last week, they said we should have one kick blocked this week. All right, Minnesota Vikings are saying the same thing.
Yep.
There's no reason why we shouldn't have a kick blocked in this game, and they did. So it's that falls on obviously execution, but we've had to do a lot better special teams wise. People can't just have your number and block our kicks. Those are too important.
Did you see this quote from Kaylin Kaler?
Mm-mm.
Well, she did the same thing last week. She went to the Packers locker room, right, and talked to the players. So she did today. She goes to the Vikings locker room. Here's a tweet from her. She said, did the Vikings expect to actually block a Bears field goal the exact way they saw it on the Packers tape this week? Linebacker Pat Jones II said, quote, that's kind of rare because normally teams will go clean up what they need to clean up. But I just give credit to the group that we have.
Unbelievable. And then, as we mentioned in the last postgame show, safety Theo Jackson said, we don't really cover too many kickers that have this type of low trajectory. Yeah. So it's on Cairo. It sounds like his kick trajectory is certainly low. But then as a coaching staff, you have to understand your personnel, right? And then make the adjustments. If the offensive line, you got to do something to try to make the kick or don't kick.
The person that deals with this the most, the special teams coach, the coach that's around his kicker all the time when we're away and the kickers are out kicking or doing whatever they're doing, is looking at this stuff and like, listen, that's a coach that's a lower trajectory. We got to move them up as much as we can if possible. If we have to do it right now, emergency, then we'll do it. But coach, we have some time. Let's try to move them up as far. Let's help them out as best we can.
Yep.
There's got to be somebody in your ear that you trust because there's a bunch of coaches that he trusts that are right. You know what I mean? That are right more than they're wrong.
Yep.
Well, there's 900 coaches on the staff, so I hope he's listening to at least 5 of them.
Yeah, so once again, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Even the guy that called me a child earlier for
Sorry
no reason.
about that. I try to limit that to just a
keep
couple
that
of
to
days.
yourself, Hogue. You got a burner in the chat? Come on. But appreciate you guys hanging out. Hit that like button for Lance Briggs and Adam Hogue at the very least. But we appreciate everybody tuning in. We're going to get through some super chats. And as we round third here on the Briggs and Brown Postgame Show. Yes, sir, Lord.
Start with Jason Lassiter here.
I like Jason Lassiter. Good job, my guy.
$1.99 super chat. Lance, nice scarf. Kudos on the wardrobe. You are looking very dapper today.
Thank you.
Would you say some earth tones? Is that what you said?
A little earthy, you know. It's kind of a Midwest theme, you know.
Got some Thanksgiving vibes going on.
Absolutely.
Like that, like you kind of spoiled your Thanksgiving outfit tonight.
You think so?
Or are you going to just run it back?
Yeah,
run it back on Thursday?
Wear it again. What if I wear it in Chicago and then wear it in Arizona?
There you go.
Ooh, good point.
I mean,
no one's going to see me in Arizona in this, huh?
Is your mom cooking Thanksgiving for us?
Yes, she is.
Is that confirmed?
That is confirmed.
Nice.
So we're going to talk about this here as the week goes on. But my mom on Thanksgiving, she's even staying the night at our house because we've got to cook it at our house. We don't have an oven here in the studio, but we got to prep all this stuff.
So she's going to stay Wednesday night.
Bring
it in.
And then we're coming in Thursday morning.
We don't have a what now? We don't have an oven?
We don't have an oven here.
We don't have an oven or a smoker or nothing like that, huh? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna cook it.
We have a grill out there on the family.
We do have a
farms
grill,
patio.
but we're gonna get Thanksgiving dinner here as we're watching Bears Lions. We'll have a pregame show, a postgame show, as we always do. Briggs and Brown postgame. This upcoming game against the Lions will be on Friday.
Yes.
So make sure you stay on the lookout for that. AB will be joining us for that, so don't you worry.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll be having some fun and hopefully talking about a Bears win. If not, Lance, I'll throw this to you before I get to the other super chats. If we are not talking about a Bears win on Friday,
oh boy,
are we having a breaking news show because Matt Eberflus is no longer the head coach?
No. There's no reason to believe that the Chicago Bears organization is going to break their protocol in 2024. We've seen the last 3 coaches get fired, and it happened on Black Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Black Monday is coming, but it's not going to happen after this here loss.
Well, I'm looking for Black Friday here coming up the day after
okay. There you go.
Yeah, and
you
Kevin
set yourself
Warren,
up for more disappointment.
That's fine, because you said there's no reason to believe. Sorry, I believe in logic, and that's what I expect the Bears to use if they do not win on Thursday, and you go from 4-2 to 4-8 with 3 straight division losses and 3 games decided on the final play of the game. Logic needs to win above all on Black Friday, but I'll give you every opportunity to beat the Detroit Lions on Thursday on Thanksgiving. Good luck to you, Matt Eberflus.
Hey, Lions have lost 7 straight on Thanksgiving.
Well, and that's the other thing, Adam, and I'm sure we'll talk about it this week, but that was your big play before the year, was that the Lions always screw up on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
You think you're going to be 10 toes down on this?
I think my preseason prop bet was to bet the Bears. It was the spread though, because you could bet spreads. I don't think I said the Bears outright, but I said whatever this. I think it was 4.5 maybe. I think I said the Bears were 4.5 point underdogs before the season started in this game coming up, and I said that was my lock of the year. That's what it was. Lock of the year. Bears cover against the Lions. Now, Lions.
Oh boy.
Let's delete that tape, please.
Clyde Norwood in the chat. I've seen you.
Please delete it.
Clyde Norwood Jr. in the chat. I've seen your comments a few times today saying that we ignore your comments. So I'm going to encourage you to put your comment in, and I will read it. If you have any questions or comments for the show, put it in the chat, and then we will answer your question.
That's why you do a super chat.
Alex is not feeling well, ladies and gentlemen. He got sick, and
she was asking earlier about Alex. But if you have a football question, you are welcome to put it in there, Clyde, and I will be happy to answer anything or have these guys answer your questions.
And if you have any questions for Alex, I'll answer it for him.
Ooh, I like that.
Yep.
Okay. Well, so if you were speaking on Alex's behalf,
who would win between Arizona and Florida right now?
Oh, you say hell? Well, it'd be Arizona. Shoot, what the hell?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Giuseppe Mandel, $9.99 super chat. Vrabel,
yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Vrabel Lovey 2025. Make the Bears great again. Just bringing in a couple defensive guys is
Just
Giuseppe.
Just what we need.
Giuseppe.
I'm gonna share my short list this week.
Giddy up.
Okay.
I got 5 guys already. And
5 guys.
Yeah. Which right now I'm hungry. I might go to 5
That's
guys.
what I was going to say. You got 5 guys passing burgers out. D Boone, $9.99 super chat. Defense is overrated. Not enough ballers in the 2 deep. No playmakers on defense. Linebackers are solid pros, but not game changers. If we're being honest, that position isn't living up to Bears standards of past. Lance, I'll dial you up for that one because D Boone's being pretty hard on the linebackers here. I know you've enjoyed TJ Edwards.
I haven't, yeah.
And Tremaine Edmonds. So I would love to hear your perspective on the standard that the linebackers are currently at.
There is a standard, and I think the most disappointing part of the standard that we're talking about is our lack of being able to stop the run, and that's been happening consistently over the last month and a half, probably 2 months, really. There was a play that Jordan Addison caught today, and Owens comes in, launches, doesn't wrap, hits Addison. Addison breaks the tackle, but what I'm looking at is TJ. TJ is slowing down. He's throttling down because he thinks the play is made, and Addison goes for like 40, 50 more yards. If TJ's hustling, if he's hustling to the ball, that extension of the play never happens. That is disappointing. So when you write what you're writing, those are the plays. It's about effort. All these guys are talented. They made it to the NFL. You're talented. But are you bringing the right attitude and the right effort? So things are creeping in, and you're starting to see it based off of this play. TJ, I think he's too good of a player to be put in that situation where he's literally probably saying, "Oh shit, he's still up."
Right.
Don't put yourself in that position. Take that away.
So this is where I wonder if the hits principle is starting to slip a little bit, because earlier in the season, you saw 4 or 5, sometimes 6 guys rallying to the ball in that type of situation. Yep. And right now, what you just described was earlier in this year, TJ Edwards would have been right there. Even if Owens made the play, he would have been right there to jump on it or get in, or maybe the second guy in to try to rip the ball, whatever it is. And now he's slowing up. And that's the type of stuff that we've heard consistently from players and coaches. They get loafs, right? The old Rod Marinelli loafs. Yep. They get loafs all the time for stuff they don't even agree with. But I wonder, and it would only be somewhat of human nature to be like, all right, man, this guy's obviously getting fired. So does this hits principle thing really matter anymore the rest of this year? Like, do I care right now if I get this loaf or this loaf? Because
you should, Hope, because
I know. I'm just wondering if that's slipping at all.
If you're on the outs with the Chicago, doesn't mean you're on the outs with all the other teams in the NFL. You're always building your resume. So, if we're not in the playoffs, if coach is going to get fired, they're looking to get rid of some players, you're going to trim the fat, you're a cap casualty. It still doesn't mean that you're not building a resume to say, hey, the Bears may not have, we want to get this guy. As soon as the Bears let him go, we want to get him on this team. I think he'll be an asset to us. So if you're taking plays off, to me, it can only hurt you as far as the way that other coaches think. So for some of these guys, they're going to say, well, he's a little bit older and he looks like he's moving that way. Like, I don't know if we should waste any money on this guy, think he's going to be out the door. Mm-hmm. But if you're hustling every play, you remove all of those. Shoot, Bobby Wagner is playing for the Washington Commanders. He's one of the older linebackers in the league, but he's still playing because he runs to the doggone ball every play.
100%. Make sure you're hitting the like button here for the Briggs and Brown Postgame Show. We appreciate everybody hanging out. Want to remind everybody now is as good a time as ever to become a diehard here at CHGO Sports. If you go to allchgo.com/diehard, you can sign up, get a free shirt right out the gate. We got really good merchandise. You see the QR code here on your screen. You can sign up that way as well. We have podcasts every single day, 5 days a week. We cover all teams here in Chicago and everything else in between. So make sure you sign up at allchgo.com/diehard. Getting to a few more super chats here. Matthew Pierce, $10 super chat. Another disappointing game that also confirmed the Bears have the best quarterback in the NFC North division, maybe all of the NFC.
Let's go.
Are we sure this isn't Alex Brown's burner account? How does the D give up this many critical 3rd and 10s? Is it coaching or talent? We certainly have gone over that here a little bit. I think it's the talent is there. I just think critical down in moments, they're just not getting the job done. But I don't think it's a talent issue. So Jason Lassiter, $9.99 super chat. Since you're a Bears defensive legend, Lance.
Thank you, Lassiter.
I'm glad Jason specified, made sure, just not to get him
making sure it wasn't talking about you.
Yeah. Right, or you, you know what I mean?
No, not you.
Kind of felt the vibe.
Since you're a Bears defensive legend, Lance, should more culpability be placed on the Bears defense for giving up 30 points today? What player coaching adjustments are needed? Brilliant show. We appreciate you, Jason.
Well, I think it's on everybody's shoulders. Everybody's responsible. Everybody in that room, when they go look at that, they break that tape down together, and it's that whole defensive room. Coaches, nobody is exempt from this accountability. And the crazy thing about it, like you'll look at these plays and you'll say, okay, it's not about finding another better defensive call. It's about learning being able to play it better. And if you're playing it the way that you're playing it, then we've mentioned over and over about things creeping in, and allowing your fundamentals to break down. Like these fundamentals, if they're not broken down, you don't see 30 points being scored. You don't see that. You see more of that average where the offenses are getting a ton of opportunities. And our defense, they say, man, the Bears don't give up more than 20 points. They play, it's always under that, and the reality is this Bears defense, they're capable of holding teams to 17 points or less on an average. They're just not doing it.
Yes. Clyde Norwood coming in with a question. We do not ignore anyone on this fine program, Clyde, and we appreciate you tuning in as always. Defense needs to kill the quarterback and cover people better. Who do you guys see as the new Bears head coach? Well, as Adam said, if you tune in during the week, he's got a short list. Short list. That's good. Keep it short and simple. Yep. My guy, I don't know if you know Bill Zimmerman's work, but he put a list of like 22 guys out there.
Oh, yeah.
22.
And that was
22.
That was stressing me out. I personally have spent all of the last week trying to get Kyle Shanahan fired to just get him on the table. They lost again, and I just think that would be a move that San Francisco needs to make. Fire Kyle Shanahan.
It's kind of a family thing with him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like his dad was there. He's there.
Well, you know what? It's time for a change, And I also have been trying to get Mike Tomlin fired. I don't think
you don't want to get Harbaugh fired?
Yeah, well, Harbaugh's, I think, sunk his – I tried to get Harbaugh here as a free agent, and nobody listens to me, and this is why everyone needs to listen to me.
Harbaugh coached at UC San Diego. All right. He played in Chicago. Coached at Stanford. He was the head coach at Stanford, but he's back in California where he was coaching college football.
Right. Yeah.
So,
well, and that's where
one of his stops.
49ers too.
Well, we can't go backwards now.
You know what, right? So
we can't go backwards now.
Well, we can. There's an OC in Kansas City who is pretty good head coach.
Matt Nagy. Oh boy. What about Dave Tobe?
Listen, Dave Tobe. Yeah, absolutely. There we go.
Yeah.
I would love Dave Tobe to be here.
I would have hired Dave Tobe 11 years ago.
Certainly not trying to, dismiss your question, Clyde. It is a layered question, and we're going to talk about it as this season progresses, and certainly as we get closer to the end of the year. Like I've said, there's Ben Johnson is the name that all fans are, talk about because he's going to be the hot name like Kyle Shanahan was when he came from Atlanta as this top-end play caller. But as I've said, and we talked about it a little bit on our previous postgame show that if you haven't tuned into, make sure you tune into that. But, underestimating Thomas Brown's opportunity here to end the year and the relationship he's starting to build with Caleb Williams and the continuity he's showing to put into this offense, he checks 2 boxes. One, he's a play caller who has an understanding of a good advanced offense in the McVay offense. And 2, he's shown that he can stand in front of a locker room and lead men. And so I'm not – a lot of Bears fans are going to dismiss Thomas Brown because he's part of this shit show. And I think that's unfair because I think I just want to keep it. I'm not saying give him the job. I'm just saying let's not cross him off the list because he happened to be part of this stain that is the Shane Waldron experiment.
Right, I'm with you. The problem I think I see is him being the OC, a new coach coming in, or a new coach coming in and being said, hey, you can come in and be our head coach, but this is going to be your OC. Like there's something there that's.
Oh, you're saying if they keep Thomas Brown, but as the offensive coordinator,
right? I mean, shoot, if I'm sure that if we trend all the way, keep trending the way we're going, that Needle keeps going that way, he has to be a consideration for a head coach, But the other thing that it poses is bringing a head coach in and saying Thomas Brown's going to be our
we've been
OC.
down that road before.
Yeah, we don't want to do all that.
Right. And,
all or nothing.
It's like, well, he's just been the OC for 2 games.
All or nothing.
Well, he was an assistant head coach for the LA Rams when they won the Super Bowl under Sean McVay. Yep. So he has a resume that I think people have to acknowledge. He has a presence in that locker room that the players respect. And now he's starting to build this relationship with Caleb Williams. It is going to be something we continue to monitor. We're not making any grandiose proclamations on whether he should be the head coach or not. I'm just saying he's starting to move his name up the list. And 3 weeks ago, I don't think I would have had him on the list at all because we didn't know what he could do. So at least they had the stones to fire Shane Waldron, and now we're starting to see something around here.
Let's see how it all plays out.
Yeah, we got a long way to go. But I always,
me,
it's
almost like you can learn something by actually being willing to fire somebody in the middle of the season.
That's right. And that is why I encourage the firing of Mark Carman at any given notice. No, I'm kidding. David Werner, 1999 Super Chat. What is the panel's thought on Ian Cunningham? He has interviewed for GM openings before. Do you feel he would do a better job if he was running things instead of Poles? I mean, Adam, you can speak to this, but he was reportedly, one of the guys that was kind of holding, Ryan Poles back from trading up for Rome Odunze. So, he certainly has kind of been a balance, it feels like, for Ryan Poles within this organization.
Yeah, Ian Cunningham has had a couple opportunities. The Cardinals wanted to hire him as the GM. He actually turned that job down 2 years ago. And then last year, I think he probably would have taken the Washington job, but they decided to go in a different direction.
Do you think if Ryan Poles were to be fired, which I do not think that's to happen, that there would be any scenario that Ian Cunningham would take that GM job if Ryan Poles was fired?
No, I think that they would go in a different direction if they're going to go down that road. I don't know. That's a really hard. I appreciate the question. It's just a really hard question to answer. I do know that those two are usually when you see Ryan Poles, whether it's at Hallis Hall or it's on the road, Ian Cunningham is standing next to him.
Right.
So, I mean, this is a guy who's been heavily involved in all these decisions. I think good. But also, if we're going to look at this thing 3 years in and be like, they are still weak along the trenches on both sides of the ball. I mean, Ian Cunningham's a former offensive lineman too.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so we got a few more Super Chats that we're going to get on out of here.
Do this one from All-American next because this
All-American 09 $5 Super Chat. Can someone explain to me why we never address offensive line in a serious and meaningful way in the drafts? Hogue, this is your fault.
Right before I came back down here and sat down with you guys, I was looking at a clip of my guy Jackson's Jackson Powers Johnson destroying somebody today in the Raiders game, and I just wanted to throw my phone against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm very happy with Rome Odunze, but this is a thing, and but you know what? It's not just, you got to invest in, offensive lineman over a wide receiver or whatever. You got to get the picks right, or you got to get the signings right. You can't spend all this money on Nate Davis and find out what I could find out in 2 phone calls the day after they signed him.
Correct.
That he's got a reputation for not wanting to practice. Like, how is that possible? You can't trade for, I know I'm going off topic now from offensive lineman or whatever, but you can't trade for Chase Claypool and then have the reporters in Pittsburgh the very next day being like, oh man, they couldn't wait to get rid of him.
Gotcha, suckers.
Like this is, so it's not prioritizing one position over the other. It's not getting it right. Like right now, I don't think Darnell Wright's a bad pick. I do know Jalen Carter's crushing it for Vic Fangio in Philly though. And he was right there to draft. So it's not even, to me, just about offensive linemen. I would have loved to have the right 3 technique for this defense instead of, we'll take Jervon Dexter, and 2 years later, it's like, oh, man, if he bruises off,
I think the biggest thing that I'm disappointed in Ryan Poles from last offseason, because I can rationalize a lot of the moves that he made. And everybody's, gets kind of up in arms about going with Rome Odunze, a wide receiver at 9, and you had some offensive tackles there available at 9. My bigger issue, being at the Combine, there was like 17 solid centers that, to my eyes, were worthy of taking a chance on.
There have been the last 5 years.
You drafted Karan Amagaji in the 3rd round, and then a punter who Lance Briggs was very excited about.
He had a great punt today.
Torrey Taylor in the 4th round. And there were centers available. And the Steelers got one of them in Zach Frazier. Mm-hmm. I think he went where you could have got him in the 3rd round for Karan Amagaji's pick. And they needed a center. They needed a center for the last 3 years. And you tried to stopgap fill that with veterans. Mm-hmm. Coleman Shelton's been fine here lately.
He's honestly been better than I thought.
He's been better. But you could have brought somebody in that was young and part of this nucleus that's growing within this window, because I don't know if Coleman Shelton's going to be a part of this nucleus that is the DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Caleb Williams nucleus, right? So it's like I think they're going to address offensive line this offseason because they have no choice.
I mean, saying it since the opening presser.
The thing that I know, that we all know this too, is these good wide receivers are a dime a dozen. Okay, there certainly are the elite, but there's so many wide receivers. Yeah. Getting a premium offensive lineman, and maybe this draft's going to have a bunch of premium offensive linemen. I don't know. I know that the draft that we currently were just had this past year had a lot of them. So when we pass up our opportunity to do that and go for the commercial pick, it's really comes down to patience. Like eventually what comes around is going to go around, and the one thing we haven't invested in the Chicago Bears, we don't invest in our offensive line.
Yep. And they're gonna,
and I know I've been screaming about this for years now. But to me, the value of having a premium center specifically, maybe I overrate it compared to, what these GMs obviously do. They spend more money on tackles. I get that. But to have your center who knows what's going on, who can see things pre-snapped, who can help set the protections, who can lead the locker room too, like Olin did. You just saw it with the Eagles. I mean, I know I'm talking about a future Hall of Famer, Jason Kelce, but exactly. Like, you get that guy, and he's there for a decade, and it does wonders for you. And you saw them early on in the season. Now, I think they have enough other guys on that line that over the course of the season it's gotten better. But that was a big difference for them, obviously, the first few weeks of the season when all of a sudden Jason Kelce wasn't there. And in the Bears' case, they really haven't been able to solidify that position since Olin.
All right, so let me ask you this, Lance, because we were talking on Thursday about Colorado, right? They had a disappointing loss against Kansas. Mm-hmm. In the scenario that the Bears lose out, there's the potential that they could maybe even have as high as the number 2 pick in the draft. Maybe even number 1.
Oh, my gosh.
Draft the center, number 1.
So you get to the let's say it's the number 2 pick in the draft, and Travis Hunter is available, but you need offensive line. I know how much you like Travis.
I'm not getting Travis Hunter. There's no way that
he's awesome.
You can't dangle that. You can't dangle that carrot in front. I would love to have Travis Hunter. I'd love to have those guys,
player.
right? But you, based off of our team and what our team needs are, all right. I actually want to see where I can, if I can trade back a few picks, so that I can get stack up more of these linemen. So
trade back for the haul. That's what everybody wanted last year. It's the Travis Hunter haul this year. Hopefully the Bears don't lose out, but it's not off the table when you look at their schedule the rest of the way. Let's try to wrap things up here. Giuseppe Mandel, $9.99 super chat. We need beast linebackers like Lance and 54, not Bubbles. Play downhill. Play with a vengeance. Edmonds doesn't seem to have that command and respect of the defense either. A true captain. And Tremaine Edmonds was a very young captain in Buffalo. In Buffalo. I mean, he came out as a very young player and got that captain patch. And so I think he has leadership qualities. But then now he's come here to Chicago. I don't think he's been terrible by any means, but
and he's making the speeches to the backers and the defense on the sideline.
Right.
At least from what I've seen.
Well, he had that nice pass breakup, deep on the.
You guys have been spoiled. That's all. You've just been spoiled with linebackers.
That's right.
From the very beginning.
That's right.
Yeah, and your guy from Wisconsin, Jack Sanborn, when he gets his opportunity, he makes the most of it. He makes the most of it. I don't think he's going to be here next year, and I have a funny suspicion whatever team he goes to, he's going to be an impact player.
Well, he might do what T.J. Edwards did. It's actually a very similar situation. Undrafted free agent who is earning a payday, and the Bears wanted to pay it for Edwards, and that's probably going to happen to Sanborn too.
Okay, House of Haas, $10 super chat from New Zealand. You can see the teams that are well-led and are connected to their head coach. This is a leadership issue that leads to bad individual decision-making, and I think that was on full display where it's 4th down. Cairo Santos runs on the field because they think their coach isn't going to want to go for it, and they're like, oh, wait, no, now we do want to go for it. Now they're late to the huddle. Now they're late to the line of scrimmage. Now they barely get the snap off. Now Caleb's trying to throw this desperation throw to Keenan Allen, incomplete. Somewhat of a drop too. And the whole thing was just a complete mess. And it's what you're talking about. They're not connected to their head coach because the Detroit Lions in that exact same scenario, they know Dan Campbell's going for it because he's crazy and he's going to do it every time because he believes in his team. So their offense doesn't flinch. They're staying on the field and getting ready for the next call. The Bears, they don't know what their identity is. So they're like, who's going to be out here?
You know what I think happened?
Exactly.
You know what I think happened there? And I'm just hypothesizing here, but you're usually thinking about that decision to play ahead. So I'm thinking on the headset, Flus and Hightower talking, and Flus has already decided if we don't get the first down here, we're gonna kick it. Because usually you will give your special teams coordinator a heads up play early if you can, so he gets everybody ready. So you say, hey, we're gonna kick it. Then they picked up some yards on that play before, right? And then. All of a sudden you might have some chatter from elsewhere on your headset. Hey, I got this play call, or you got your quarterback going. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. Let's go for it. And oh, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but when Cairo started jogging on that field, I'm pretty sure the Soldier Field crowd started booing. Yeah. So all of a sudden you get those influences from 3 different places, including that crowd that all wants you fired, and all of a sudden, you know what? Let's actually go for it. And that's the only way I can explain the kicker and the long snapper already running out, the field goal operation already going out there. They were already told they were going to kick it, and then something changed there at the last second, and then all of a sudden Thomas Brown's like, oh, okay, here's your play call, Caleb, and then Caleb's like, oh, okay, I got the call wrong now, and now we're all screwed. And the only thing that solves that whole situation is a timeout.
There's a timeout.
Where?
On the field.
In Flus's pocket.
Oh. That's a bad poker face.
Yes.
Bad poker face.
Okay.
That's good. Lance is a Lance is a man of culture, and that's what we've learned here in these.
I'm a man of standard.
Man of standard, a man of culture, man of
like he already read the super
outfits.
chat. Go for it.
D. Boone, $5 super chat. Lance, I appreciate you speaking on that standard at linebacker. You mentioned one guy and not the other. The other gent needs to flash more.
I mean, I didn't mention Sanborn either, you know, and I could have mentioned him and talked about how great I think he plays when he's on the field. You know, I do mention TJ because he and I played the same exact position and the same exact defense. So I know in the situation where Addison had that big run, that big break tackle and run and advanced it, that TJ should have made a difference on that play.
Absolutely. Once again, hit that like button for the Briggs and Brown Show. Hit that like button for Adam Hogue, who sat in here for Alex Brown here today.
Yes. We
appreciate you
so much better
staying later. I know we got to get out of here with the quickness because Adam's probably got like 3 more podcasts to do before the night ends. But we
got to go to Five Guys.
Yes, and Five Guys.
Actually, I just want to go watch Yellowstone.
Yes, so but appreciate you as always, Lance Briggs and Lawrence Benedetto, for all your hard work. And once again, thank you to everybody that tuned in. Please, once again, hit that like button. We will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central. Mark Carman, Herb Howard, Lance Briggs, Alex Brown, all hanging out, going over everything. And, of course, Professor Briggs.
Oh, yeah. Glasses are coming. So are grades. People not going to be good either.
Punter's going to get an A.
People are going to be put in detention. That's what's going to happen. Make sure you tune in. Appreciate everybody hanging out. Keep your head up. And always, bear down.
We all silly like the mayor.